Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Well, Revit 2025 has a new update, and today we're diving into the latest updates in Revit 2025.3, where Autodesk has introduced some seriously exciting features and improvements that I think will make a difference in everyone's day-to-day workflows. I can't emphasize enough how pumped I am about some of these updates, and I know you will be too. So in this episode, I'll break down the updates that stand out the most in 2025.3, showing you exactly what's new and how you can apply these features in your projects. All right, let's get into it. So the first improvement in Revit 2025.3 is the addition of the Addin Manager to manage all of your add-ins. This is really great, and it's going to help make sure that the add-ins that you want loaded are going to be loaded. So this is actually located directly in Revit, and if you go to your Manage tab, right over on the right hand side in the extensions where you have your macro extensions, you now have the Addin Manager. You can open this and see a list of all of your add-ins. You'll also be able to see the vendor as well as the load time. So if it takes a long time to load, maybe you want to disable it, or it's just good information to have. Here you can check or uncheck to include any add-ins when Revit loads. Note that if you're doing this from Revit, you will have to restart Revit once you uncheck or check any add-ins in order to see those changes. Alternatively, and this would be my recommendation, you can also open the Addin Manager before you open Revit by going to your search bar and typing in Revit Addin Manager. You'll see it pop up right away, and you can start the Addin Manager prior to opening Revit. Make any changes you want to which add-ins you want loaded or not loaded prior to opening Revit, so you don't have to restart Revit after the fact. The next improvement is to rooms, areas, and spaces, and honestly, this might be my most anticipated and the improvement I'm most excited to see and use, because it's the ability to recenter the room reference line and then move the room tag to that room reference center point. So here I have a ton of rooms, and let me just turn on that location line so you can see it. So you can see my room location lines are kind of all over the place. Now when I select my rooms, I have the option here to recenter room reference. Also, if I went to architecture and to rooms, I also have it in the drop down here. So it's in both locations, but it's more convenient that it's in the Modify tab, as the Modify tab automatically gets switched once you select elements. I was also really curious how it would handle rooms that are not rectangular, like an L-shaped room, for example. And I'm really happy to see that it handles it pretty well. So let's go ahead and recenter those references. And we can see that it really nicely recentered those references. Now that I have those room center lines recentered, I can look at aligning the room tags to those centers. So again, I can simply select the room tags. And in my Modify tab, I also get the option to move to room reference. Alternatively, as well, if I go to the Annotation tab, under Room Tag, I now have a drop-down as well, and that option is in the Annotation tab. But again, it's just more convenient in the Modify tab. So simply select the Move to Reference, and all of those tags automatically move to my room reference. This is really going to make it so easy and nice to clean up all of those rooms and those room tags. Our next improvement is to compound elements. These are like walls, floors, ceilings, and now we have the ability to duplicate that layer in the Edit Assembly dialog. So if I go to, for example, select to create a wall, and I have a wall with multiple layers like this one, I can edit that type and edit the structure of that wall or floor or ceiling or any compound layer. And now I have the option to duplicate that layer. This is going to make it a lot easier to add layers and modify my assembly of my compound elements. Revit is really stepping up its game with its spell checking abilities. Now, when you create a text annotation, and you are spelling within that text annotation, and you make a spelling error like you see here, now we have the ability right within that text note to right click and check for spelling and change the spelling of those words directly in the text annotation. This is going to make updating text annotations on the fly so much easier and making sure that everything is spelled correctly. And the last improvement that I want to talk about is the export PDF. Now, in Revit 2025, we now have the ability to export PDF in background. If you weren't familiar with this improvement, basically when you go to export PDF, you now have an option to export in background, which basically means that it will export, take as long as it needs, and you can continue working in Revit without it blocking up your Revit as it did in previous versions. But this improvement in Revit 2025.3 gives you the ability to view the status of the background PDF export. So I'm going to go ahead and export a few PDFs here. And it's going to take a second to kind of initiate that export. But once it does, it will go into the background export mode. And then we'll be able to see it down here. And once I select that, we'll be able to see the status of that PDF export until it's completed. Once it's completed, you get this pop-up and you can then go to view those files. There are a few other updates that I won't be covering in this video today, and I'll put a list of them right here on the screen and a link to Revit's updates down below so you can read about and check out some of the other updates that I didn't cover in this video. And that wraps up our overview of the latest Revit 2025.3 update. I hope this breakdown gives you a clear view of what's new and how you can make the most of these tools in your projects. Be sure to drop any questions you have in the comments down below. I'd love to hear how you're planning to use these updates, or if you've noticed any game-changing improvements in your workflows. If you enjoyed this content, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, stay empowered, stay inspired, and always challenge what is possible. See you in the next one.